IT wing of Raj Yoga Education Research Foundation. And essentially, we've been conducting these sessions for over a year now. Our faculty includes working professionals all over the world who share their knowledge for the empowerment of society and make sure we are enabling each of our members. So we offer career guidance, helping create a CV, so that way each of you has options as to how to get a better job. So that way you can experience peace, happiness in life as well, and not have to worry about and be stressful about your job as such. So, how to interact or deal with interesting, challenging personalities at work, and how to over navigate and get a high level overview of IT as well. We cover all those things. So, we usually start with the mind empowerment technique, and we cover the topics related with the session, and then we conclude with another mind empowerment technique. So, usually that's the format, and we try to get started on time, but sometimes there are issues, so we get late by a few minutes like we did today. So we'll start, and of course all our sessions are free of cost. Education is not our business. We see the whole world as a family, so of course money is not a factor at all at play. So we'll start with the mind empowerment technique for today. Let me just make sure the session is being recorded. Yeah, it is being recorded. So, the mind empowerment technique that we've been discussing in the past few weeks is how to focus and concentrate. And what causes us not to focus and not to concentrate on our goals and what we want to achieve is a lot of wastage. Everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we perform as an action starts with a thought. So instead of constantly trying to control what we say, instead of constantly trying to say whether I should say this or not, whether I should have done this or not, if we pay more attention at the thought level, then it's a lot easier as such. Uh, and using the supreme intelligence and knowing what to do, what not to do, and being able to use our spiritual powers, we are able to make better decisions and a lot faster as well. So, but everything, the key to that is understanding that everything that we do, it all starts with a thought. So we are very observant and very careful about what we think. And if we are thinking a lot of things and only doing a certain percentage of it, then rest is all waste. It wastes your mind energy, making you tired. It will we are saying things but not able to act on it, which will again make you tired and make you lose your credibility. And at the same time, you're doing things that you really didn't want to do, and then that would wear you out as well and cause more confusion and chaos in life. So it's very important to be a detached observer, as we discussed last week, where you're observing your own thoughts. Many times it's easy to observe others because we can see them, we can hear them, we can see them with the physical organs. So it's very easy to judge others and analyze others. What we need to do is be our own judge and analyze ourselves, thoughts, our words, our actions. That way, we will be able to understand ourselves, what we do, what we say, and why we do certain things. And many times, the focus is we are other people's judge, and then that creates between the people, and we become a good lawyer to justify our actions. We need to be a judge for ourselves. And when you don't have clarity and you need to justify yourselves, you are the best lawyer in the world. There can be no other lawyer who can convince you to do the thing. All of us are really good lawyers. All of us similarly have we wear multiple hats, and we are very good actors as well. We forget who we are and then respond to what others think we should be. And actors do that. They play different personalities according to a script. So we want to be what someone else wants us to be, and then we are not, and it causes friction as well. So if someone says you're an idiot, instantly you'll react because you'll say I'm not an idiot, but you're wasting energy trying to justify everyone else saying you're not an idiot. You don't need to, because you're not. So you don't need to justify it. But if you know how to navigate through life, what to respond to and what not to respond to. Now, last week's mind empowerment technique we called saying, you need to be a witness, a perfect witness, like the Supreme Father, like the Supreme Intelligence, like what God does. He doesn't say, "Oh, Russia, don't fight. Oh, you don't fight." He just observes and sends good wishes. So similarly, many things we waste and drain our energy responding and reacting to things, whereas we need to stay focused on our goals. So you've decided your goal in life. You've decided what you want to do with your career. You've decided what you want to do next year. And we've discussed many times, New Year is coming. All of you will make resolutions. But if you're not determined, within 15 days, if not within a week, that resolution is gone. So we discussed previous mind empowerment techniques saying if you have a goal, keep it in front of you. Every day when you wake up in the morning, see your goal, because that helps you revive and make sure your determination is strong. Because if you're not determined to do anything, the power in your thought is lost. But you can make sure whatever you think, you can act on it and convert it into words. And whatever you say, you'll have the courage to walk on it and actually implement it into action. And determination is the key to that. So make sure you've got your goals clearly highlighted. Visualize your goals, because then you've got clarity what it is that you need to do. And then success is just an outcome, right? And success is not based on outcome of what you thought would be, but success is based on what your effort was. The outcome is many times beyond your control. You're studying all this, you're giving interviews, you might have given the best interview you ever had. You've answered everything. Yet, it does not guarantee that you will get a job, because there are so many unknown variables which are not visible to you, and so many factors beyond your control, that what's not important is that you're expecting that outcome. You should always have a targeted outcome and put in your best effort. So when you're putting in the best effort, keep that outcome in mind and accordingly put that effort. So the best outcome you want is you want the best paying job, you want to get a job as a data architect. That is a goal. So you put in your best effort. When you're going for the interview, you put in your best effort. After the interview's over, the minute the interview's over, your effort stops right there. Sorry about that. So the minute your interview's over, your effort finishes over there. Usually, now what happens is after your interview is over, you will think about it for 1 hour. Oh, do you think they will select me? Did I answer this question right? You can do that postmortem analysis for maybe 10 minutes to make sure you've got any lessons to be learned from it. But once that postmortem is done, fire and forget. Thinking about it, are they going to select me or not? I don't know how many candidates have applied for it. Am I good enough as well? All these are simple examples of wasteful thoughts. Nothing is going to come out of that thought. How many candidates apply to it? It's immaterial, right? Don't even think about it. So observe what is wasteful thoughts. Many times we discuss, right? Gossip, perfect example of wasteful thought, right? What others are doing, what others did to succeed, you're wasting your time. Focus entirely on yourself, how you can empower yourself. Use your spiritual powers, spiritual power of tolerance, power of patience, right? Power of appreciation. Be kind to yourself. And then it's fun. Life is very fun. You can just sit back and observe your thoughts and observe yourselves. So I hope every day when you wake up, just 1 minute. You're all busy, you don't have time, but just 1 minute, sit in silence. If possible, just 1 minute before you go to bed, just calm down. Just like you shut down your computer, you press the power button. Shut down your mind, saying, "Okay, I'm done for the day." Sit in silence. That silence is equivalent to a power on and power off button for your mind. Silence your thoughts. Handling stress, that will become so easier for you if you can detach from your mind and just hit the brakes and breaks for your thoughts and just experience silence, even if it's 30 seconds, you will realize it what for yourself what I'm saying. We've been discussing this for a long time, so I hope you're experiencing this as well, right? Experience small burst of silence, even 30 seconds, 20 seconds, if not even 30 seconds, but try to observe silence just for a few seconds. That way, you will feel more powerful and more control, be able to focus better, be able to concentrate better, and focus on your effort, and the outcome will be pretty much what you want because you've done everything you have. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. uh, Today's session, as usual, it's very important that you revise what you're learning, otherwise yeah. So I think we had a volunteer last time. Let's see, doesn't matter, each of you, any of you can volunteer. So does anyone remember what we discussed last week? I think Devi had said she would probably volunteer. I think she's not on the call. So, and again, you don't have to tell me everything. Whatever, even if one of tells me one of the points, that's good enough. So, who wants to go first? Please unmute yourself and tell anything that you remember from last week. I would strongly suggest if you can tell from your memory instead of reading notes, because what is important is these notes are there in your mind. So whenever you want, it will be there in your mind. And I don't want you to memorize like a parrot. That is not the objective at all. It would be a failure, if you're just taking parroting it, because that won't help in the interview. So I want to make sure you absorbed it, you realized it, waited and thought about it as well, and you've practiced it. Then you will remember it because you've understood it, you've debated it, you've said, okay, why not this, why not that? And then when you're giving interview, you don't have to prepare much. Go for an interview like at a this as well. That's the level of preparation I want each to in, where you don't even have to stress about an interview, because the whole purpose of these series is living a full stress-free life. And if you're taking stress about attending these sessions and trying to remember it, follow the process. You don't have to worry about it. You have to just enjoy it. Knowledge is, you can enjoy knowledge as well, but please follow the process, right? Revise it. Right? We send out the polls just so that you'll remember it. So who wants to go first and
Yeah, I would like to add, we last time we discussed on scalability. That is 2 points we discussed. That is horizontal and vertical. So we had an example for vertical was Burj Khalifa. How was it built? And that is the vertical scalability of the data. That example we discussed. Apart from that, we discussed for horizontal scaling was I think apartment housing was an example which we discussed. That is a good example for horizontal scaling. Apart from that, we also discussed on one definition, that is not definition, I would say, but it is like atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability.
Asset
That was one
properties.
point. Yeah, that's it.
yeah. Very good, Anita. You can give this example of Burj Khalifa and apartment complex in an interview as well, because you have a good understanding, right? So it always works good. So no, that's a good summary. Anyone else wants to add? Ashish, you have your hand raised. Did you have any question?
I just wanted to, revise that, but I wanted to give
Yeah.
before to others, and I can add to
Yes.
Anita has said. Uh, we we discussed about distributed computing and SQL databases and NoSQL databases. Again, we touched upon the concept of serverless SQL databases that are coming up. Probably we'll be discussing more. And relational databases, we follow this ACID property. We discuss atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. And NoSQL databases are basically non-ACID compliant because they want to, work on performance. And you also mentioned some forum based, which is again then consistency, availability, and partition based.
Yeah.
And further, the other things for serverless and and serverless NoSQL databases are there. Example like this that is that Amazon Aurora and Amazon Analytics are there besides Google BigQuery. So these are the relational serverless databases available these days. Serverless NoSQL databases are there. Amazon Cosmos DB, Azure Cosmos DB, and then Google has a Firestore, which is again serverless NoSQL databases. Probably the things we will be discussing in this. That's it.
Okay, well, that's really. Well, are you guys able to hear me properly? Because I think Ashish, your voice was breaking up. I'm not sure if it's my connection, but I hope everyone else at least was able to hear you fine. Okay. Anyone else wants to add anything? Do you remember what we discussed in the previous session before that? No, I'm stretching you because you remember what we discussed 1 week back, but do you remember what we discussed 2 weeks back? Remember the example of orange in a basket? You've got 1,000 oranges. How do we split it? So, anyone wants to add? I just want to make sure you're constantly revising, and everything that we've done, you remember all of it because all of it is very important. So, can we use SQL on a NoSQL database? Can I write a SQL query and that combines those queries with MongoDB? Can I do that?
Dr. Kesh, though we discussed the answer is no, it's a no SQL database.
Yeah.
But I've explored further that there are connectors in the MongoDB through which we can write SQL queries on this database.
Yeah, but they are not accurate, and the question is, can I just take a SQL query and write it? And, if I'm to use a connector, it does guarantee that it will be an accurate translation into the native database's query language, right? Like MongoDB has its own language, Cassandra has its own language. These connectors are pretty much translating it for you. So depending on what features are there provided by the NoSQL database, unless connector is really up to speed and doing that, and practically I've not seen any of these connectors actually proliferate SQL databases. The connector makes sense, but an organization not want to have 4 NoSQL databases. They will have maybe one or maybe another because they acquired another company, or another one because they are migrating from one towards the other. So if the question is, if I have only one NoSQL database, do I need a connector so that I can write SQL queries? And the answer is no, because you're not migrating any data from a relation to a NoSQL database. And the simple reason why no one does that is because if you are taking a relational database and migrating it to a NoSQL, it would be a bad design, because the way a NoSQL database is, it has denormalized data, whereas in a relational database, it is normalized data. So let's cover that concept of normalization and denormalization. So again, to understand RDBMS, I'll keep repeating some of the acronyms so those who are from non-IT get used to it. Relational Database Management System. So to understand differences between RDBMS and NoSQL, you have to go 20 years back in time. So 20 years back in time, that disk storage was a premium, it was expensive. So the way these were designed was to save on the storage cost. So you want to store your data in such a way that you're not unnecessarily using more disk space than absolutely what is required. And you want to use your disk space in a smart, efficient way. And we discussed that, efficiency 20 years back was how less of a disk you can use to keep the cost of your disk storage low. That was 20 years back. Forward to today, this space is extremely cheap. So, it's not a criteria at all. The deficiency, the, the definition of efficiency is performance. How many milliseconds, sub-millisecond does it take to query that data and give the response back? Definition of efficiency nowadays is resiliency. I don't want any loss of data or any, if I'm buying something through the website, I don't want to give any message to the customer saying, sorry, our system is down because my database is down. So I want my systems to be run all the time, being able to do business 24/7, whether there's a hurricane or a cyclone or an earthquake, my system should be up and running all the time. That is efficiency nowadays, right? So performance criterias have changed over the 20 years, over 2 decades. So 20 years back, when disk storage was a premium, what we would do is we would normalize the data. You split the data across multiple tables. That way, you can store the data. The best way to, I'll give you some homework, and we'll cover this in the next week, because there are two things I want to cover. But I think there are like 5 levels of normalization. But the simple way to understand is, let's say, you're capturing customer details, right? And you're capturing their first name, last name, their city, address, and country, let's say. Uh, if you're capturing the city all the time, every time you insert that record, that customer's first name, last name, city, and country together, there could be that, you could have a lot of customers from that same city and same country as well. But if you insert it as it is, right, you're more space, because now you're saying New Delhi, India. So instead of putting New Delhi, India all the time, if you've got 10 customers from New Delhi, India, you can just say, you can have one corresponding to saying New Delhi is identifier 1, India is identifier 2. So using that 1-digit identifier, I can save the less of the space, where I don't have to put the entire characters New Delhi, but I can just put a key to that, we call it as the index or the identifier. And I can have another table which would have the list of cities, and I can say 1 is New Delhi, 2 is Mumbai, 3 is Kanpur, and so on. Instead of putting the entire city name, I can just put that number or the index to that city. Same way I can do it for the country. So there are various level normalization. It's typical to do level 3 normalization of when you're finding or modeling a relational database. So modeling is nothing but how you're breaking your data into different tables, structured tables or relational tables in a database, right? And that database schema is nothing but a collection of those tables. So when you normalize your data, you're creating multiple tables. And then when you want to retrieve that data, do a join on those tables, and you will say, okay, show me all the customers in this, where the city is New Delhi. And then you will say, okay, get me all the customers in table 1 and join it the list of cities in table 2. Yeah. So once we do more of the databases, install it in sample queries, it will start making sense. But you need to be aware that we split data across multiple tables in a relational database. And in simple words, to simplify it, that's called norm. But how you split it within the table, how you split it across the different tables, organization, or we abbreviate it as 3NF. third degree normal. So when you're a data modeler who's defining what the structure of the table is, that's what a data modeler does. They would typically normalize your data to the third. Okay. So to answer what Ashish was saying, organizations have been doing relational databases for years. Company says, Dinesh is on the call. He's, well, I'm from the business. I want you guys to innovate, and I want you to make sure, our systems are up and running all the time, and I want you to do things a lot faster because current thinking, it shows, it takes like 1 minute to place an order. I want to do it in 30 milliseconds. I want my systems to be fast and efficient. IT, I'm going to give you 100,000, go and fix it, right? So what will you do? Well, if you're thinking that relational database and try to put it in a NoSQL and just put it in a NoSQL and say, Dinesh, you're the VP, we've done a lot of innovation. We took our relational data from relational database and we put it as it is in a NoSQL database. And we had 10 tables in a relational database and we created 10 tables in a NoSQL. This is what we've done and this is what it's going to cost. There'll be benefit for it because the benefit comes in when you're not joining the data, right? Every time when you're joining the data, it takes more computational power, which impacts performance. So that's something SQL help. Joining your 10 plus tables, you've got performance, a serious performance issues because these joining of the tables it's a performance hit. So usually, you may not want to join more than 4 to 5 tables, and anything more than that is a problem. And question might be there, are there situations where you want to do more than 5 table joins? Yes. If you have hierarchical data, example is product merchandise in retail company. For example, I have a vacuum cleaner. A vacuum cleaner is in the category of a home appliance. Yeah, that's a hierarchy. Home appliance comes in the category of electric device, right? So there are different categories, but this vacuum cleaner could be a dry and wet vacuum cleaner, which I can use to wash my terrace as well. So instead of limiting that to that fixed hierarchy, I can have that vacuum cleaner of type wet vacuum cleaner, which is of the type terrace accessories, right? So I can have multiple hierarchies, and if you use companies when they have this hierarchical data, they have to limit the number of hierarchies, and it will usually up to 5 levels. After that, it's a performance hit. Yeah. So if you have relational data and you put it as it is in a NoSQL database, so you can run that SQL query on that NoSQL database, it will be a bad design. If you are a data architect and if you recommend wired, because the design of that data is totally different. In a NoSQL database, you want to denormalize the data. You don't want to split that New Delhi and India into a separate table. Keep it as it is. The reason why we didn't want to keep it as it is was because we wanted to save on disk space. So many data modelers, many architects, they forget why we did what we did. And they're just used to doing things because they've done it the same way. They tend to do similar things with the NoSQL database. And that's a bad design because you're going to create the same problems there with a relational database and bring it to a NoSQL database. So please don't do that. Will sell these connectors saying, take your data from a relational, put it into a NoSQL, use a connect. So you've done a lift and shift, then you go and change it. Well, no one is going to change it, and you defeated the purpose of your migration from a relational database to a NoSQL database. So that's the reason why those connectors are pretty much useless and you wouldn't want to use it. The value comes in when you're remodeling your data in such a way that when an order is placed from your website, you get that JSON object. You dump that entire JSON object as it is in the NoSQL database. You're not splitting it across multiple tables. You're not validating that JSON schema according to the type defined. Because one of the things we covered is that, or let me ask you a question. Do NoSQL databases do data validation at the time of write? It's a question.
No.
No, they don't. That way, they're very popular for streaming data. So if I have, I've got the big form, I've got the customer's details, I've got the order details, I've got the shipping details. If I were to do it in a relational base, I would have minimum three. I mean, I'm taking, not 3 degree normalization. I'm taking level 1 degree of normalization. I will have minimum 3 tables: one for customer data, one for the order details, the purchase amount and everything, and one is the shipping details. I would have to insert it into 3 different tables. I will create a transaction and make it atomic so that if all those 3 data pieces of information go in the table, and if all 3 were queries were successfully executed, I can say yes. If 2 were successful and 1 isn't, I will roll back that transaction, because we've got atomicity as a feature in databases. Yeah. So I have to insert into 3 tables. Where in my new design, if I were to going to put it into NoSQL database, I'm not going to create a customer, about the order, and about the shipping as one JSON object. Whatever is on the form, hit the submit button, take that JSON, insert that JSON that is in a NoSQL database. So I'm not doing 3 tables, I'm inserting it as it is, right? Previous SQL query, which was working in a relational database, would it make sense to use a and use the same SQL query on this data? Think. I want you to think and say yes or no. And if you disagree, then you get it clarified in your mind. So do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea? There is an advantage to it. What would be the advantage?
Bad idea.
And what would be the disadvantage? Bad idea. Why is it a bad idea? It's a good idea if I were to just take my SQL queries. I've got a lot of complex operation. I can take that SQL. I don't have to do work, and I can just do it. But it is still a bad idea. Why is it a bad idea?
So everything you need is in the same place. Then you don't have to look into a different table. It's
Right.
it's
So when
combined
retrieving
together.
that data, right. So all my data is one place, which means if I were to retrieve it, it will make it a lot easier for me as well at the time of retrieval. So one of the other differences with NoSQL databases and RDBMSs, you are designing or modeling the data in an RDBMS based on how you are writing the data. Yeah. How is the structure of the data at the time of write, and you're validating it. So it's friendly for write specific. Whereas in a NoSQL database, you're not doing much work when you're writing it. Just take it, dump it as it is. The work is when you want to read it. So you want to make sure only the customer data, right? You can write an API and retrieve just the customer data or the rest, or you can have a change data capture as and when that occurs in that NoSQL's database. It will say, I got these 3 orders, and then you filter it and send it to your ERP system, to SAP or something downstream, and they will process that order. Yeah? So it is very write efficient friendly. You don't have to model much in, right? You can just dump the data as it is. The reason why it's a bad idea is because your structure of the data is different now. So if you're using a structured query language, remember the S in SQL is for structure. It has that structure. But now your structure has changed because you want to take advantage of the NoSQL databases. You want it to be normalized. So if that is the case, that SQL query is useless. It's use that. First of all, these connectors are not free. I'm going to pay a cost for it. And just save on that migration, I'm going to use that same data structure. I'm not benefiting from it. And these connectors don't quickly work. So that's the reason why these connectors are not that useful. You're better off doing remodeling of your data, and you hire people who know MongoDB. You hire people who know Cassandra DB. They'll model the data for you. They will write the queries for you. That's why the connector is not useful. Does that make sense? Ashish, are you convinced that I should connect and just write the query in a new language? Although it sounds a lot
No,
more work, but there's a benefit to it.
yeah. Yes, I mean, in principle, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, SQL-based databases were designed differently and NoSQL were designed differently. In principle, yes. Only the point was that in any case is required, then factors we can use it. But yes,
Yeah.
all in all,
So the right question
we
was,
are talking about
can
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So the right
Yeah.
question is, can we equal natively on a NoSQL database? And the answer would be no, because
Sorry.
you're using a connector. It's native. It's not part. When it's not native to the database, means it's not part of it. MongoDB is not providing that connector. It's some third-party solution. So it's not native to it, right? So can you use
Yes.
SQL database as a native? No, it's not native to it.
Right. And if it is not
Okay.
native, then it won't, derive the value out of it.
Exactly, right. So it's counterproductive, but it's important to understand, right? Because if anyone asks you this question in interview, you'll be able to answer it what your thoughts are, and if they don't agree, that's fine, right? You with the CV and all this knowledge, you will get the job. It's just a matter of time, right? So you don't have to convince anyone, because when they ask questions, they don't know the answer themselves. Especially someone who's and it has happened many times. That's why I keep saying focus on your effort, not on the outcome. You might have worked day and night for it, but sometimes the people who are interviewing you are junior to you, and those interviews are interviews, and sometimes don't hesitate to even walk away, uh, because they come from a different mindset. The way a developer thinks and a way an architect thinks versus the way a director or VP thinks, it's day and night difference. The level of questioning is also different. So a developer will ask you deep level questions, say, oh, I have this SQL, what is exactly the syntax? An architect will ask you that question. He won't tell you, write a SQL query in front of me. Yeah. But if a developer is interviewed, has to write a SQL query. So the person who's asking you to do the stuff is actually A grade. So in that sense, tell them, I'll have to, see in front of the computer. But if it's absolutely architect, no, it's good to have, but not a must. Yeah, but it's definitely a good architect. But if they're evaluating things which are not important, then that person is really not, best person. And but the reason why I'm mentioning that is because that happens many times. So don't be disheartened when your interview doesn't go well. Focus only on the effort, not on the outcome. Right? We took an example of sowing the seeds. Keep on focusing on the effort of sowing the seeds. Keep on focus of applying and preparing. Outcome is never in your hands. No matter how much hard you prepare, no matter how many, you will get what's destined to you. But don't wait for that destined seed if you don't put in your effort. It kicks in only after your effort. If you don't use the effort word and you wait for whatever is destined, be prepared for all the negative consequences. Yeah, because that was also written in destiny, that you will not put in effort and you will never get the job. Right? It works both the ways. So if you want to use the power of destiny, focus on your. We also discussed master data management in our previous session. Covered what are the attributes of data, fast data, streaming data, big data, dark data. We covered as well. Okay, let's get started with today's session. I want to make sure we are doing something new and exciting as well. So uh, before we left off in the last session, I don't know if it was Ashish, someone asked a question. The question was, we can run, we can use serverless SQL and run SQL queries on data such as a Parquet file without loading that data in a database. And if that is the case, right, why even have a database? And that, I think, that was one of the questions. And how does this data get to the database? And why is this serverless SQL important? Right. So I'll answer the first question. If you can run SQL query on a file, why put it in a database? But if anyone has prepared for it and want to answer, please feel free to. This is a sharing session. It's not a teaching session. It's not a monologue at all. If you feel you got to share and you can explain in a better way, please do so, because there are things like which even I may not be aware of. Things do change. So this is a sharing session. No one is or everyone has its strengths and weaknesses. So I want to make sure you feel that you're part of the group, not just it's not a one-way channel. So why do we need to load data when I can just use a SQL query engine to run a query on that data? Understand what is the journey or the life cycle of the data to be able to answer this question in a very understandable way. The short answer to that question is, before that we didn't have a choice, and that's why a lot of the data, 80% of the data, is already there in a database. NoSQL databases, or NoSQL stands for not only SQL. It's interesting is SQL doesn't work natively on it, right? So we need to understand that this is all recent. If we had this choice 20 years back, yeah, probably data wouldn't even have gone this far. But because we didn't have a choice, the query engine and the file storage database, they were tightly coupled. Now we have these choices, so that makes it different. And a lot of this happened in the big data ecosystem. Yeah. So let's understand the journey of how the data travels, and then we'll be able to answer the other question, how and when, why is it relevant to use serverless SQL on this? So again, we have to go back. Remember, we have to go to our fictitious retail company where we were just selling a handful number of products with just Excel. Our business grew, and we started selling more products. We want to get in now to systems. So we've got more products, and we've got different physical location, increasing the number of suppliers. We went from 5 to 500 to 5,000 products. We're really big. Excel is not going to cut it. Just manually managing all of this inventory and the supply and everything, and doing this ourselves, is also not going to scale to that many products and that many, like 2,000 suppliers, right? Trying to do this through email and trying to say, okay, I've got this entry, but oh, sorry, I could only ship 30% of it. And sorry, I've got this new material. Managing all manually, you won't be able to be successful, right? Amazon sends your order in within few minutes. It's not because a person is manually doing it. It's all automated. Automation is the key for a successful business. That's why every business has an IT department. How we use the advances in IT to help business innovate and further be able to have that interaction with their customers is what IT is supporting the business for. So in this case, our business grew. We had to bring in multiple pieces of software. One of the pieces of software we discussed was enterprise planning, or such as SAP, such as Loss, such as 365. There are various others as well, but big organizations, they will use SAP. If need be, we can do a quick refresher on SAP to be used. So usually, if you get that training as part of from your company, great. And if you're an SAP, you have SAP. But as I said before, in IT, a little bit of everything pays more knowing everything about one thing. Yeah, so a little bit of SAP, great. The fact that you have a keyword for SAP, good enough. Your CV will get shortlisted. Yeah. So you have your master data within SAP. You've got another system which is SAP. You want to be able to capture your interactions with the customer in a CRM software. Does anyone remember example of CRM software? Can you name me one or two CRM softwares?
Salesforce.
Salesforce. Any else? Anything other than Salesforce as CRM?
Pegasystems.
Perfect. Pegasystems as well. Anything else? This is good because other thing you want to do, a good architect is also a good reader. By looking at an architectural diagram, and if it's a good diagram, within few seconds you should be able to say, oh, this is what you're doing. Oh, this is going to Pega, so you're using CRM, right? You can read architectural diagrams as if you're speaking with someone. But if you don't know what some of these products are, you'll be like, what is Pega? Right? And if you go and ask them what is Pega, they'll be like, you haven't worked in the industry for long, right? So you have to Google it. Now, many times what gets interesting is companies will use acronym for their systems. So when you come across these acronyms, they'll say, oh, use Polaris and go to Polaris and get this data. Now, if Polaris is a software or if Polaris is a name given by that company to that system, we don't know. So usually what I do is I'll Google for it, see what it is, see if it's relevant to it. Polaris is not a CRM software, so it's something probably they're different. So I'll ask them. It's like, I didn't see anything for Polaris. You're new to the company, right? So but make sure you do a quick search and you know what it is. That you can be able to read the diagrams. You can say, oh, this data is going to CRM, and there it's getting this master data and all that. So you can have that internal conversation. Okay. So coming back, your company is grown. You've got a CRM system now, which has a lot of your customer data. You've got an ERP system, which has your inventory, supplier relationship, your finance information, your HR information, how many employees you have, and so on, right? Now, you might have a different time attendance system, might have a different system which, you are using it for, let's say, paying to the bank. So you have a different system for finance where you're sending the ledger files to the bank and the bank sends you ledger files back saying, yes, I received these many payments. And your IT have multiple IT systems. You move from Excel to one database, and a system is it has a front end and it has a database as part of it. We call it as a system. So it has a front end. You have a click on it. You have a form, and then you have, or maybe a web-based application. You hit submit. It takes the data, puts it into a database. That entire functionality could be part of one system. Yeah. CRM, you call in, I capture the interactions with the customer, saying, oh, customer call with this complaint. I promise I'll follow up with, what the status is. All those notes are within the CRM system. So check captured the notes. Those notes were saved in a database, but you don't have to install the database or manage it. You're using a SQL query. You're just using the web form to hit the submit button. Behind the scenes, the code is inserted into the database. So that's an example of a system. So over the period of time, you have multiple systems. Now, the problem statement is you want to analyze your customer data. Many companies, it's just a matter of time if the company you are working in is not doing it. But almost every company has thought about it. Some have acted on it. Some are on it. Some are in the planning phase. But it is the desire for every company to build what's called a customer 360-degree view. You want to know everything, anything about your customer. Why? Do you want to guess the answer? Why do you want to know everything, anything about the customer? And what is this anything, everything? And why do companies want to know that? So you have to challenge me. You have to say why. So instead of you challenging me, I want you to think, why do companies, whether it's a bank or a phone operator, right? They want to know everything about you. Why?
It is because they want to sell so that they can sell the products to them, like what kind of a customer looking for, what kind of a product they are looking for, or where their business is expanding, so that they can also sell the products their own. They can also, kind of to be increase their turnover or sales.
It's
Correct.
basically
But how do they
and
want to sell?
Say
Yes,
for
sorry, I didn't.
example, if I have to sell, say I'm selling insulin, for example, a pharmaceutical company, and if I know, say Apollo Hospital is expanding, say about 10 more hospitals is opening up, or 15 more hospitals is opening up, that is knowing the customer, like an Apollo as a customer, say for the organization. So the company, pharmaceutical company, they know that they are expanding, so they can have more proposition, how they can sell their products, their insulin, their diabetic products to them. So just to have the more information about the customer, I think that's what I think.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I would
Anita,
like
you were
to
saying,
add on.
do you want to
Yeah,
add?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, just wanted to add on the same thing as Rashmi just mentioned, that it is regarding promoting the business. Definitely, yes. Apart from this, is we need to retain the customers and we need to ensure that we are giving the best services in the market. So, this 360 view of the customer is very important nowadays.
Very good. So we're in the age, I'm going to use buzzwords because these buzzwords is, makes you sound really, like wow, you want to give that wow effect to the interviewer. So one of the trends is hyper personalization. Write down that keyword, Google it, right? Next, tell me what is hyper personalization, right? But I'll give you the answer in short. Uh, Before that, let me take a step back and give you basics and what is 101, right? Because we live in a world full of marketing, right? Everyone wants to market historically, right? 20 years back, it, I use it in that way. It makes sense what it is there right now. So previously, 20 years back, we've been doing marketing for ages, yeah. uh, but the basics for marketing is, right, you're reaching out to your customers. In order to market customers, you need to know what it is that the customer needs, right? Who needs it? So, who is the customer who needs it? Second is what it is that they need. Yeah. If you know those two questions, you will be able to sell it. Okay. Who needs it and what do they need? Yeah. If you know those two questions, you can sell what they need because the customer has a need for it and you know what the customer wants, you tell them what they need. Yeah. Budget and all that come that later. So in the past, salespeople would go door to door, or they would do what's called as cold calling. They would randomly call people and say, "We have this offer. Do you want it?" Now they don't know whether you have a car or not. And say, "We've got a promotion for car insurance." Yeah. Now this person doesn't have a car, so it's relevant. No. Yeah. But they don't know who has it, who doesn't have it, right? So in that case, if they don't know who has it or not, then they're just shooting in the dark. Yeah. So usually, old ways of it is you do what's called as cold calling and mass campaigns, right? You just send out a flyer to everyone in the mail, right? Everyone has that flyer. Whether they need that product or not, you don't know because you don't know the first basic question: who needs it? And because you don't know who needs it, right? Because you don't know who needs it, you just the success rate for those marketing campaigns is 2%. Yeah. So out of 100 mailers that you send it, only two will show some interest and maybe buy it. Only two out of 100. It's that low. Yeah. So then, as technology evolved from direct mailing, physical mailers, you got these e-flyers. And then they would do the same thing again, right? But it didn't cost that much. So e-flyer was okay because and you have those mailing campaigns. Essentially, that's happening because they don't know who really needs that product. So they became a little more smarter, right? See how technology is aiding companies. Every time now you shop, right, on site, there's a policy which will say, I'm going to save a cookie. And that cookie is nothing but a piece of information stored on your computer, which the browser is writing on your, and it's capturing each and every click. Each and every click that you, even if you're, and let me revise now. It's not only browsing each and every click, it's capturing each and every mouse movement as well. Even if you hover, you just putting your mouse over something, but you didn't press on it, it will capture that as well. And it will store it. And this cookie is then read by the companies to know, oh, you're looking for a vacuum. Then that's why you'll get the pop-ups for vacuum cleaner, even when you're looking at the news or something. But that's how it works. But the question is, right, they didn't know who it is. So they're trying to collect more information about you. Ad is the so India really passed a digital privacy law. I think it's called the DPDP Act. Existed as different laws in different countries. EU is really well known for it, for protecting data privacy. So there is a law called as GDPR. Yeah. As a architect, is this relevant to the data architecture? Absolutely, because data privacy is of data architecture. If you are building and designing a system, and if you're ignoring data privacy, good data architect, right? So data privacy is a component of data architecture. So if you're going to design a system, you need to be aware about these data privacy laws. The best known law is in EU, which applies only for European customers, irrespective where they are in the world. It's very important to know and understand these laws. GDPR applies to European customers only, but they don't need to be within you. A EU customer residing and shopping in G or Reliance or anything, technically GDPR applies to them as well. But who's going to force and everything? So Indian companies, they just ignore it, right? Because who's going to fight it? How each case is going to last for so many years, so they don't do it. But technically, that's what GDPR is. Now India has adopted a clone or a little less strict version of GDPR called DPDP Act as well. So you need to make sure that data privacy applies. But coming back to marketing, right? So who needs what, right? And then what it is they need, right? So now companies, it's becoming less and it's becoming very challenging for companies to use this cookie information, steal your information from Facebook posts, buy it from different companies and everything, to know what it is that you want to buy, right? It's becoming very, very challenging for them. So one of the best ways for them to do it is, every time you interact with them, they want to collect more information, right? Everything that you do with them, when you're downloading the mobile app for that particular provider or that company, read that terms and conditions. It will specifically say you are giving the permission to capture and use the data for their marketing and internal purposes. Every legal disclaimer has that language. Usually, we don't read it. We'll just like next, Rambo style, done. But if you read it, it'll explicitly say that out. So companies they don't want to lose any piece of your information, because
We are not able to hear you.
I think Mukesh has disconnected.
Yeah, we are not able to hear Mukesh.
Hello.
Hello.
From this session.
Hi, Ashish. Can I ask a small question? In the beginning, when you were summarizing the previous session,
Hello.
yeah, hi, Ashish.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for summarizing the session in the beginning of the lecture. Just one small, you were mentioning some examples, some specific examples of relational database. Would it be possible because your voice was breaking at that time? So since Dr. Mukesh is not here, could you just repeat that part what you were saying in the beginning of the class?
In today's session, you're saying?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, like we discussed, there are type of databases we discussed in the previous sessions, like relational database management systems, that's RDBMS, and more based on, like Mukesh told us, that based on the storage performance that was, cost was high of the storage. Nowadays, the storage cost is very cheap. We want more of a efficiency based on a performance. So we have these NoSQL databases. Then going further step, latest databases are in the cloud are coming as a serverless. Serverless means you don't need to, set up or pay the performance of the hardware. Could be like both. Either you have in premise or in a company physical server. In the cloud, you can have a dedicated server also. That's again, you are giving a cost of a virtual hardware. And next advancement to that is your serverless databases, wherein you don't need to have a database defined or dedicated for you. If you have some, data in files and you want to run a SQL on that queries, you can run it dynamically. So you don't need a dedicated database. That is serverless databases. Example for serverless relational databases is Amazon Aurora, AURORA. And yeah, so that is analytics based server. For Microsoft Azure, database is there, that is serverless. Google BigQuery database is there. So all these three are there. And for serverless NoSQL database, AWS Cosmos DB is there. For Google, Firestore is there.
I see. Thank you. So serverless is both NoSQL also and relational database also.
Yeah, I mean serverless, like the concept wise, you can see who want to have a dedicated, yes, so that will be regular RDBMS or NoSQL databases. But yes, if you don't have any need to have a continuous database server, whether it could be relational or NoSQL, if you don't need a database server in the daily basis, you can run, based on dynamic needs. We like, for example, if you are getting some data in Excel files or any other format, and you want to run dynamically on that, so you can run that data. You can run that query. It will be like per transaction or per query based. You won't be charged for database, but you will be charged for the time you execute or the resources utilized in that execution or transaction.
I see. Thank you. Thank you. It's now much more clear. So a serverless and cloud is then similar then.
Probably in cloud you can have both. In the cloud you can have a dedicated server
Okay.
dedicated to you, and you want to utilize it. So for that server, probably you will be having X amount of cost, and you can utilize this on throughout. But if you don't want dedicated server, you just want to run, you have the capability of database, and you want to just some query, you can maybe use it for, let's say, for couple of minutes, 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So you won't be getting charged for complete dedicated hardware or virtual server. You will be charged only for, let's say, for 5 minutes and whatever resources you are utilizing for that period of time.
I see. So we'll be charged based on the execution steps, basically.
Yeah.
I see. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very
It's only the higher level to understand it easily. You can own the server, or you just want to use the server for some period of time.
right. Like when we say platform as a service or some, those kind of database as a service.
Yeah. So if you want, so I'll further explain. Like in the cloud, happen is that was that a platform as a service? In the cloud, you will be getting some virtual server. Second came is that like software as a service, like you are getting Microsoft SQL Server already installed on that cloud. All the maintenance and of the server, patching, security, that will be done by the provider. Then afterwards, but you don't want to have that dedicated server also, then it will be a serverless. It will be though it might not be exact same example, but yes, if you want to have your own flat in and you want to purchase it, or you want to just you are going to some other city and you want to rent out a place for maybe for half day or 1 day, whatever is there, accordingly just paying rent for the utilization.
Right, right. So basically, just the computational power of a server is what we are renting in this case.
Right, exactly.
Thank you. But ultimately, even in serverless databases, data has to go somewhere, right? It's just the um, I didn't quite get where does the data go in serverless database?
Like whatever understanding I have, I'll tell you. Like for if you have if you have need for a like database for a company, you need to have your customers, you need to have your transaction data, like CRM or master data. Then probably you need a server, dedicated server, because data will reside always be there. It, but in today's scenario, you like for more for like for analytics point of view, if you just want to have execute some dynamic queries, is which is not regular and it's not uh, you know for cross 7 is required, then probably you don't need the database. Data is there. It could be in different format, like in maybe you are getting like say data in like Excel or flat files. Then you want to once in a day, and you want to execute SQL queries and get some extract out of that. So probably you don't need a database for the full day. Maybe it's happening once in a day, so you can schedule the job and get the insights out of that. That way you don't require like for so data again, you have data in the cloud normally, like is a storage system is there, and it might be coming out from like any data streams and all. So based on the frequency or the usage time, you can utilize that, and you don't need a dedicated SQL server. But yes, data could be there. It might be coming dynamically. It might be there in the cloud itself.
I see. So basically, we
Format.
just extract the information from the data, and rather than storing it, we are just concerned about the basic, I mean, the
Processing queries and all.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I got disconnected to be admitted. So I hope everyone can hear me now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Because I'd asked a question and no one was responding, so I was like, "What's wrong?" Then I realized the problem is on my end. So sorry about for that and keeping you waiting. So I don't know exactly at what point I got disconnected. So if you can help me, tell me what point I got disconnected, and I'll continue from there.
We discussed data protections for Europe, GDPR and DPDP.
Okay.
So that's very much
Okay.
required in the data architecture.
Yeah. Did we talk about that customer 360?
Yes.
So all
Yes, we
companies,
did.
and we talked about hyper personalization, right? So, I create what I was saying was that every company wants to create a customer 360-degree view. So let's say, in my company, I've got a CRM system and I've got an SAP system. What I want you to think and tell me is, what does a customer 360 degree mean to you? You've got a CRM system and you've got an SAP system. What does it mean to you? And what I want to know is, what is the first thought that comes in your mind? Because I want you to know how you're analyzing and approaching the problem. And I was saying, don't worry about what others think, right? Your thought process is more important than the actual answer. So when you get a problem statement, it's very vague and very open, right? So there's no one uh, answer which is like an accurate answer. It's a very open-ended question. And those are some of the good interviews, because it helps you showcase how you think and how you solve problems. And that is very much needed. So we're going to do an interview question today itself. You are you're giving an interview, and someone is asking a question on the panel saying, I've got a CRM system, an SAP system, or an ERP system. What does customer 360 degree mean to you, and how will you go about it? I want you to share the first thought that comes in your mind, whatever it is.
.360 combines all the data. It can pull data from all these systems that is mentioned. CRM, SAP, and
Okay. So that's a correct line of thinking, right? But that is only 180 degree view. So, but yes, you're thinking along the right line. So I've got a I've got a CRM system and ERP. If I combine my customer data from the CRM, I know their demographic details, I know who they are, I know their order history. If I can combine all that information, that will create a 180 degree view, because I have all the historical details about my customer. So that's an 100, right? What do you think? Really?
Your voice is
So
breaking.
180
Voice is
degree
breaking.
view is the remaining half that I need. Why do I need 60 degree?
Mukesh, we are not able to hear you properly. Voice is breaking.
Yeah. Just 1 second. I'm switching my phone. Just 1 minute. Okay. Is this any better now?
Yeah, much better. Could you please repeat the one
Yes.
activity that which you played earlier?
Yes. So if I'm using the existing information that is captured within my IT systems, such as CRM and SAP or ERP system, I'm creating a 180 degree view. The question was, what kind of information or other information would create the rest 180 degree view of the customer? So using the past historical details, I can do descriptive analytics. Does anyone know what is descriptive analytics? So descriptive analytics is
Describing.
what I've done in the past, my past historical purchases, where I reside. It's telling me what I've already done in the past. So using that 180 degree view, I can do reporting, or I can do business intelligence using Power BI or Tableau, and I can create a 180 degree view, which is descriptive analytics. Is that clear? Does everyone know what is descriptive analytics now?
Yes.
Okay. But I want a 360 degree view. So what other information needs to be captured, so that way I can create a 360 degree view? And where would this information come from? So I want you to share the thought process, what you are thinking.
So, thing to our mind is that in the ERP or master database, we have all the customer master information, and then we have some transaction system wherein we have all the transactions based on which we on the past data we can use that and give the analytics and see what are the trending data for that, and probably based on that we can decide upon future actions also. And beyond that, what I can think of, maybe some companies are offering further data analytics, which is non secure data, but maybe I'm not sure whether they are giving or not. But yes, some additional 360 data companies are providing, be on the legal side, and we can utilize that data also.
Also,
because all of it ultimately comes to the data. What the past historical data will system 7 8 multiple systems, but that is creating a 180-degree view of all the past information based on the customer's purchase history. But what is the other data that I can leverage? Competitor to my competitor, 180-degree view. What it can capture or use and outsmart my competitor, and how would that data
Yeah, in
can
this
I
case, I
can
think
create
we can identify the customer. I'm not sure, but if SAP can identify the customer who is the best, like if I have to rate like from 1 to 5, 5 the best and 1 the lowest. So suppose 5, the customer who is rated 5 is a best customer or an HNI customer and is a good customer of our is a so we can get that data from SAP if that is possible.
but that yes. So
Yeah, just to add,
so that so let me answer that, right? Contributing to the additional 90-degree, right? So we covered 180 data, the rest to performing customer, or this is my customer, who spends a lot of money. I'm using that data to do the analytics to generate more insight which I'm trying to cover. Can you guess
So
that?
Mukesh, so that could be like
So that
for
connection with the
replacing
customer degree came based on
retail.
of that data, and I generated new information, which I didn't
Last 90-degree could be
have.
like
Yeah, take a
for
retail
retail online
example.
shopping. So tracking, yeah. So for retail online shopping, they are tracking the
Yeah.
behavior of the user. If they are
Yes.
not doing any transaction, but in what sections they are going and how much time they are spending. So
Correct.
possibly targeting their target areas for them.
Correct.
So in a dynamic way through
Correct.
AI and machine
So
learning.
half of the data yeah, exactly. So half of that data came on the direct interaction with the customer. Yeah. So CRM is capturing that direct interaction with the customer, right? My backend systems, SAP has all that information, right? The other part of that information is through indirect capture. The customer is browsing on my website. If they clicked on a product, but they did not add it to the shopping cart, but I know they clicked on that product. It's not a purchase order yet. They haven't bought it. They just clicked on it to see what it is, right? That is one piece of information. I have one customer who just clicked on it, saw that page for 2 seconds, and versus I have a customer who clicked on that product, sat on that page for 20 seconds, saw other products, again came back and saw that product for another 20 seconds, but didn't make a purchase. They came back next day, they searched on it as the same product, but didn't buy it. The fourth day, they added it as a bookmark in their history. The fifth day, they added it in the cart, but they did not check it out. What does that tell me about the behavior of the customer?
Probably he's very much interested to buy that product, and he's comparing with other products from other platforms. And
Is it that creating an
Correct.
opportunity?
Exactly. So that is called as an opportunity, but they are
lead?
interested in it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah. So in the CRM terminology, you have a lead is a potential customer to buy their product. An opportunity is that they are interested in it. So that lead customer is interested in a specific product that becomes an opportunity. So in this case, we've identified now opportunity. Something pending in a shopping cart for a long time, Amazon will send you an email because the CRM system triggered that as an opportunity. So it is not the data which is residing in your ERP, it hasn't reached over there, but it's using that indirect capture of that information. You went on a mobile, you downloaded the mobile app, right? That shows that you're interested in this product. You are an iPhone customer, Android customer, that tells a lot about the customer because an iPhone is more expensive than an Android. So companies, if they know that you are an iPhone customer versus an Android, they will sell you the higher end products. It's a known customer behavior. So whether you're using an iPhone or an Android, even that information is relevant to the company. That is not captured in the CRM or in an SAP system, but there is a need to now capture that information. And that information, more information you capture through those indirect means, through cookies and other databases and everything, that helps you create a 360-degree view where you can not only tell me descriptive what the customer did, but now you can predict and say what the customer could be doing, but you want to take it to the next level. You want to be prescriptive what the customer should be doing. So prediction is, you will buy $20 worth of products. Prescription is you need to buy toothbrush in the next week. So what does the doctor do? Prescribe medicine. So in this case, the company is prescribing, saying you need this. So using that data, you can build a recommendation system. People who buy this product as well, right? People who are buying pizza, they will buy some drink with it. That is, so the more data you capture, or indirect, whether through that customer or whether you capture that data through indirect means, whether based on some of their shopping behaviors or you buy some of that data from other third parties. You can buy it from Facebook as well. You can buy that information from credit card companies. All that information, the data helps you build, combined with the power of AI machine learning, create a 360-degree view. So that's why anything we are doing with this data contributes towards that 360-degree view. So if any of your customers are not doing 360-degree, if your company is not doing 360, this is your chance to put a proposal and say, where are you? Are we doing 360? I can tell you how to do a 360. Bring the use case over here. We will tell you exactly how to build a 360-degree view. What does it mean? How to build it? And how to help sell more and increase the bottom line. Okay. So we are getting close to our time. My apologies again. We lost 10 minutes and we started 5 minutes late. So there was lots I wanted to cover. This is not a marathon sprint where, we have to do things in one session. It's an open session. So I hope you learn. Any questions before we conclude the session with another mind empowerment technique?
Yeah, Mukesh, Dinesh. So, like you
Yes.
mentioned, for 360-degree view, we can have direct and indirect data, right?
Yeah.
So, but that is all will be available from the company platform, like how the that particular customer is spending time over the internet or maybe browsing or
Yeah.
going through competitors. So is there
Yeah.
any way to find that also?
Some of it, it depends. Like, like a lot of companies, they will purchase that from, Facebook. They will buy it from that social media platform. Some of
Mhm.
it, you can buy it from credit card companies. But with the Privacy Act, it becomes very challenging. So one of the tricks, you can still, get that information. So, and we'll cover these tricks. So there's a technique called tokenization. So using only the last four digits. So the law says, I cannot sell my credit card information to anyone. My credit card information, by definition, is the 16-digit card number. However, if I sell you only the four digits, then technically I didn't sell you the credit card information because I sold only the last four digits. But if I can combine your zip code or your postcode and those last four digits of your credit card number, I can still pinpoint who that individual is. So we use that trick to still be able to identify who that individual is and be able to join that information by purchasing that information from credit card companies. So for example, I want to know which of my customers are, like making a lot of money. They're making a lot of money. How would I know from external data set that, they are making a lot of money, or, they've got a lot of money? How can I do that? Well, if you buy that credit card information, and if I know what your credit limit is, I can get some kind of indicator. So for a person with a 20,000 rupees limit versus a person with a 20 lakh rupees limit tells me a lot about that person based on their credit card limit itself. So I can give a list saying, credit card company, give me the list of customers who got a 50 lakh limit, and shortlist those customers and send me the last digits of their credit card number, because you're not selling me that information, so I'm not in violation of the law. But then I will see if they've used any of that card in the previous records and match based on those four digits and see, if I can guess who that customer is. So now, I can use that
Mhm.
information. So some of it is, like, should we do it or not? But many companies, if it's legal and they don't get in a legal lawsuit, they will do it. They won't hesitate. So credit card companies are a good data mining, data repository, which they sell the information. That's why, even if you're paying your credit card bill on time, they're not making any money off you. They're still making a lot of money off you because they're selling your information.
Good.
Any other questions? Okay. If not, you can always post it on the WhatsApp group as well. So homework, look at hyper personalization, look at what customer 360 is. You'll find a lot of interesting information. And this is practical. You should be able to talk about it in an interview as well. Okay. With that, we will do a mind empowerment technique of cover one which we've already covered in the past, but it's so important. And that one is, even the wisest person on earth said that. And the saying is, this shall pass too. Nothing remains constant. Change is the law of nature. So when the times are good, be humble enough to accept and use the attitude of gratitude. Be thankful for what you have. Keep doing good. Send good wishes, right? You don't have to use words. Just your good wish is important. So when that bad time comes in, it is just the law of karma. Just like how we have the laws of physics. If you push anything, it comes. There's an equal and opposite reaction in response. There are quantum laws of physics as well, right? Because the soul is the smallest particle, and it obeys the laws of quantum physics. So that's why there's something called as a tachyon. So in our normal physics, right, where you to push something, you need to put energy. So when you push a car, you have to give energy to push it. But if that particle travels faster than the speed of light, And because science doesn't accept what a soul is, it doesn't know what a soul is. And we are restricted ourselves that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. There is a branch of physics that if there was anything that faster than the speed of light, then the physics would be very different. And one of the laws, and you can search for this, what is a tachyon? If something is traveling faster than the speed of light, you have to give energy to it to slow it down, right? If it is traveling less than the speed of light, you have to give energy for that to travel faster. Whereas if it's traveling faster than the speed of light for a tachyon, you have to give energy to slow it down, right? Sounds interesting and fascinating when I read it. And the best proof of that we are an example of it is the mind. When you're in a stressful situation where there's too much to do and you don't know what to do and everything, the best thing you do is, the first step is observe silence. You slow down the mind, right? Because when you slow it down, you can do better, you can function better, right? You're in more control. So instead of giving more energy to it, you have to slow it down by using the power of silence. You have to use the energy to connect with the supreme soul, use that supreme intelligence, and then you're more powerful. So all these spiritual powers, right, the more you use them, the more powerful you get. The more you give them, the more you get, right? So that's why when we say, when you donate, right, the more you give, the more you will get. In normal physics, how much ever you give, it will reduce your amount. But if you're on the other side of the speed of light, the more you give, the more you get. Knowledge is just an example. The more you give, the more you will acquire. These laws, they obey the laws of physics. That's how it all works together. So it's not that you have to keep track of it or anything. If you do good to someone, it will come back to you. There's no exception. It's physics. It will come back to you. When it will come back to you, how it will come back to you, that even you don't know. But it will come back to you. So that's why we give a lot of emphasis on good wishes and doing good and thinking good about others, because it will come back to you. Nothing ever remains the same. Change is the law of nature. So when your good times are there, what you can give, many times we think you have to be a rich person to give. That is an absolute misnomer. That is a myth. You have to think what you have that you can give. And there's so much to give. You've got time. You can give the gift of time. You can do something good for someone, take out time to do it, right? You've got the treasure of good wishes. You don't run out of good wishes the more you give, right? The more you give, the more you will get as well, in the form of support from others, right? You don't know it, you don't see it. It just works because that's how the physics works, right? So what you can give good wishes. You can spread love, you can spread peace, you can spread happiness. Don't restrict it just to one, because if it's to one, it's within limits. The soul is infinite, it's beyond any limits. Same way, right? When you're giving, look at what you have. What you have is indestructible. It doesn't confine to any limit. So you can give good wishes, you can give your time, you can give your knowledge, right? You can share your qualities, right? You can share good words. So there's so much to give, but you need to look inward to know what it is that you can give. But once you start realizing what you have, there's plenty to give. If someone says, I can't give because I don't have money, it is purely because of the lack of ignorance. If you can just make another person smile, you gifted them the gift of happiness, right? Nowadays, in a materialistic world, it means you have to give them a chocolate or some material object, and they measure their happiness based on it. And if it's smaller than what they expected, their happiness is instantly gone. But don't worry about that, because no matter what you do, it will always be gone. So focus on things that are indestructible, right? If you can make a person smile, even for a minute, you've given the gift of happiness. That's what the society needs. That's what the world needs. And we've got plenty to give. The only thing is we need to be aware that we need to give. We need to make it as a habit Don't give money, because money will, how they expend it and how they use it. And, if they do something wrong with it, then the law fires back because you supported them in a way. So it's not about money at all, but what you're giving. Keep giving. There's a saying, keep, right? But make sure you're protecting yourself at the same time. You're not over giving that's exhausting you and you're not doing what you need to do, right? But it's important that you create the habit of giving, whether it's every day, whether it's 30 seconds, whether it's 1 minute, doesn't matter. But that habit, inculcating that habit of giving, will make you more richer within, will make you realize your powers within, and it will reward you in ways unimaginable to you. But the first step is with you, with that determined thought that I need to give. I need to give best wishes and transmit it to the world. What happens, who you, that is not your job. That commander, the supreme soul, that's his job. That's not our job. Our job is just to give. So try using these techniques. The more you use it, this is about experiencing, not words, but try it. And you will feel the difference within you, which you cannot buy from anywhere outside. It is from within you will experience it. So try it. And if anyone wants to share the experiences, please do so. With that, we'll conclude the session for today. Have a great weekend, happy learning, and stay determined on your goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukesh.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Manji.